Bob! It's Boopy time! Ah! Gee, it's been a while, hasn't it? Then again, I have been busy with school stuff. It's my senior year, gotta keep punching those books so hard I break their spines. So yeah, anyways, hey guys! Favorite Badlands of Dolphin here to be talking about the heavy updates. It'll be eventually coming out. Maybe this month. Maybe it'll be like Jungle Inferno where it comes out this month. And I kind of feel like it could be coming out this month, and that's why I'm making this video. Talking about the weapons I hope get buffed and nerfed in the update. Just like last year! But anyways, this year I'm going to be doing a little bit different. Instead of talking about one weapon I hope get buffed and one weapon I hope gets nerfed, this year I'm going to be talking about pretty much all the weapons I want to see changed. And bear in mind, ever since the Jungle Inferno update, most of the weapons are in their final form, or at least I think they are, because they are really decently balanced, and they are pretty good to use in some situations. However, there are still some weapons that still need some fixing, and that's what I'm going to be covering in this video. And this time, instead of starting with Scout, I'm actually going to start with Heavy, because one, this is his update, and two, I feel like Heavy's weapons need the most changing, which almost all fall into buffs, because Heavy's arsenal falls either in bad to mediocre at best, outside of, you know, the stock Tomislav, Sandwich, Second Banana, and Fist of Steel. And just like you expect, I'll be going from primaries to secondaries to melees. So, let's start with everybody's favorite behemoth Kami, the heavy weapons guy. For his primaries, I want to see 3 of his miniguns be changed in a more better way almost. And those are the Natasha, Brass Beast, and Hulong Heater. Now, the one I want to see the most, however, is the Brass Beast. Because I said it last year as well, that the Brass Beast has such a huge potential, having that insane damage bonus, making it incredible for defense. But the downsides are so bad! That slower spin-up's going to be a detriment if you get caught off guard, and the slower movement speed, I mean, Heavy already moves really slow when revved up, but now he's practically stationary. And when Valve added the 20% damage resistance while spun up to both this and the Natasha, it made it so much more easier to fight since you take less damage when you're spun up, and then, you know, Valve's like, nah. That's a little bit too overpowered for a class with 2 weapons that are kind of mediocre. Let's change it so when you're in the red, and only in the red, you get that damage resistance. But here's the problem. The Brass Beast is designed for defense, and as Heavy, you need to take as much damage as possible, and if you're going to be only having that 20% damage resistance when you're below 150, it's going to be really hard, and you're still going to die in 2 shots from explosives anyways, and stuff like that. So, I would at the very least want to see that damage resistance nerf reverted, or at the very least changed, as well as lowering the downsides. Say, instead of a 50% slower spin up, a 25% slower spin up, and instead of 60% slower movement speed, like a 30% slower movement speed. Just make the downsides at the very least a little less of a pain to deal with. Next is Natasha, and I love this weapon so much. It's so fun to use, especially since that slowdown mechanic or stun mechanic or whatever you want to call it. It makes hitting your targets much easier. Plus, it's a good anti-Trojan weapon as well, since it's really hard to rocket jump when you're being stunned. And Scouts. Don't forget Scouts. Even though I'm a Scout main. But here's a teeny tiny problem. Valve is trying to balance these weapons in a more competitive scenario, or at least they have been in Meet Your Match and Jungle Inferno. And the Natasha is pretty much banned in almost every single competitive format, because the slowdown mechanic is huge in competitive. However, it's going to be pretty hard to make the Natasha competitively viable. The Natasha is one of those weapons I see that is really hard to balance in a more competitive scenario without completely reworking the weapon. Which is something I don't want to see with the Natasha because it's really unique, and the slowdown mechanic is a really good defensive way of using it. Now, in case you haven't realized, I never play competitive, so I honestly don't know how I would fix this weapon in a more competitive scenario, but maybe you can reduce the slowdown when the player's airborne, like with rocket jumping soldiers, or sticky jumping demos, or scouts, or like, pretty much just reducing, because that's something I hear a lot, that it's really hard to fight when you're rocket jumping since you're practically slowed down to a crawl while in midair. And then maybe you could reduce the spin-up penalty to confiscate, because, well, it's going to be a little bit easier to fight against these Atasha heavies, so you should be able to spin up a little bit faster. But that's just me. And lastly, the Hulong Heater. It's, in my opinion, one of Heavy's blandest weapons. I like the concept, spawning a ring of fire around you to make backstabbing a little bit harder, and boosting the damage on burning players to team up with pyros, but it's kind of played out pretty poorly. Sure, you may argue that it's good for when you're standing on the cart and payload, but other than that, not really. The damage bonus is really minuscule, and just like the sun on a stick, you have to rely on a friendly pyro to use it effectively. And the Ring of Fire might be a good idea, but it's actually been proven that Spy can actually jump over it and still backstab you without taking any fire damage. Oh yeah, and it still consumes up ammo when you're revving up to produce that Ring of Fire. Yippee-ki-yay-ya! Now, just like the Natasha, I honestly have no idea how I would fix this weapon. Maybe boost up the damage on burning players, and maybe make the Ring of Fire more effective, like you can't really jump over it, maybe you can push back spies or something. I don't know. Maybe you could write a comment down in the comment section on how you would fix it, but I honestly don't know. Now on to the secondaries. Wow, that took a lot longer than I expected. Just like the primaries, I have 3 secondaries I want to see changed. The Delocus Bar, Buffalo Steak, and Family Business. First up is the Delocus Bar, and this is pretty simple. Revert it to pre-Jungle Inferno. This poor weapon definitely got a change that it didn't really deserve because of the Infinite Heavy exploit that happened in Jungle Inferno, and they practically killed the Delocus Bar, nerfing its overheal and bringing you down to 300 health when you eat it a second time when you're over 350. Poor thing. It at the very least had the chance to compete against the Sandwich, but now it's pretty much just a discount second banana. Not even the faster recharge rate is useful anymore because the second banana does it in the exact same time and gives you bonus health. So yeah, the Delocus Bar is pretty much useless at this point. So how I would fix it is revert it to pre-Jungle Inferno and maybe add on another stat to make it a little bit more unique. Maybe a 15% movement speed under the effect since, you know, you're eating chocolate, it's got sugar. Have a little bit of a sugar rush, so maybe you can do a little bit of bonus movement speed or something. I don't know. Just make it unique so it can at the very least compete against the Sandwich and Banana. Just at the very least compete with it. That's something I want to see with the Delocus Bar because Valve's goal is to at the very least make every single weapon competitively viable. And the Sandwich definitely hits that mark, but the Delocus Bar, especially after the update, not so much. Now on to the Buffalo Steak. The poor Buffalo Steak. It's a cool weapon concept. I mean, I really like the idea of a melee-only heavy. At the very least, changes up the playstyle of the heavy, but it's played out in the worst possible way ever. Yay! You move faster and you hit harder, but now you take 25% more damage. Really? May I remind you, this isn't the Criticola. The heavy only can use his melee. He can't use his minigun. So why does he have to take extra damage? I feel like the most simple change you can make with this weapon is simply removing that damage vulnerability. It's pointless. There's no point. Are you too worried that Heavy's going to be too powerful? I mean, he's already a big target. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to kill him. And that's also something I want to see out of Heavy's new weapons. Changing up the Heavy's playstyle, because at this point, the Buffalo Steak Sandwich is really the only weapon that changes up the Heavy's playstyle in a viable way. And lastly, the sad story of the Family Business. Man, this weapon is good. This weapon is honestly good. It can do faster burst damage with faster firing speed and higher clip size. And while it does have a damage penalty, it rarely matters. But here's the problem. It has to compete against the Sandwich, which is probably the best secondary in the entire game. And this poor weapon's often looked down on as a meme weapon, and I feel like this weapon could be a decent weapon, and I think I have a good idea on how to fix it. What if, and now hear me out on this, what if we added a black box mechanic to the family business? So it's basically just health on hit, pretty much. So pretty much the more damage you do, the more health you get back. And I would say something pretty easy, maybe like 25 per hit, or maybe even 50 if it's not too powerful. But it'll at the very least make it more of a roaming heavy playstyle almost, plus you don't have to be immobile for a couple seconds while you regen all your health. And like I said, it's a perfect roaming heavy weapon, because you don't need to slow down, stop to regen all your health, when you can just pump a couple shots into somebody and get some of your health back. Yes, it'll still be a meme weapon, but it'll at the very least have a chance to compete against the sandwich now. Now on to melees. Whoo-wee! Let me tell you about them. Heavy's melees are pretty low when it comes to the useful standards, and most of them are utility. And the best one at this point, the Fist of Steel, is in fact a utility weapon. And I kind of want to see some changes out of Heavy's melees, and once again, 3 melees. Yes! And those 3 are the Gloves Are Running Urgently, Eviction Notice, and Warrior Spirit. Now, the Gru and the Eviction Notice I'm going to be talking about at the same time, since I'm going to have similar opinions on them. Simply revert the weapons. I don't quite think the Gloves Are Running Urgently really needed a change. Yes, it was really overused because of how useful it was, but it wasn't necessarily overpowered. It was just a heavy version of the escape plan. It was a really good utility for getting to the front lines faster, and ever since Jungle Inferno, it's just been an awful weapon option. And while I do like the new Eviction Notice, since it no longer has that damage vulnerability, it didn't really need a change similar to the Gru at all. So what I would simply do is revert both weapons to pre-Jungle Inferno standards. That's why I said revert the Locust Bar, since that infinite health issue would no longer be a thing. And if it's somehow still too unbalanced for Valve standards, maybe add like a reduced healing penalty on both weapons if you want to really make it balanced. And as for reduced healing weapons, all of them are pretty much perfect for giving your medic free Uber charge. So maybe with the Gloves Running Urgently and Eviction Notice, if they're going to have that reduced healing penalty, maybe they just add another stat where meds can't build Uber off of it. Or maybe with just the Gru. I don't know. I honestly don't know at this point, because I'm just a dumb scout main that has less than 1,000 hours, so I can't have opinions. And last, the Warrior Spirit. Oh, the poor Warrior Spirits. It's a good idea, making Heavy hit really hard and get some health back on kill, but that 30% damage vulnerability, is that really worth it? Especially with combining it with the Buffalo Steak Sandwich, you know, the weapon that's part of its item set. Yeah. Let me just run at the enemy with a 55% damage vulnerability. It's totally not like they're gonna insta-kill me. It's like you're a piece of bread floating in the Atlantic Ocean. Haha. But it's simple. Change the downside. There's really no point in that 30% damage vulnerability, and nobody's going to use it with that 30% damage vulnerability. And I really like After Breakfast's idea on adding Honor Bound to the weapon, so you take damage if you don't get a kill with it. And I feel like that's a good idea with the whole adding health on kill weapon. So, yeah. Now on to the other classes, and oh my gosh, this video's almost been going on for 15 minutes. So I might as well just split this into a 2-part video then. Talk about all the other classes in a little bit more of a briefer way, because jeez, this video went on much longer than I thought it would. So anyways, my name is Savvy the Savage Dolphin. Thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I can get out the next video before the update. The update. And I don't know, I mean, this is Valve we're talking about, so I might be able to get it out before the update. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye!